We are indeed wrapping things up here at the 10th BRICS Summit held at the Santon Convention Center. As you said there as well, we're speaking just about the political alliance of the BRICS nations. They weren't meant to be a cohesive group, considering just the variances in where they sit. But Dr. Pietro Stekok, who is General Manager for Research with Brand South Africa, perhaps has a differing view. Doctor, let's talk about those differences, however. It is 5 different nations who, yes, fine, might be emerging economies in their own respect, but certainly have begun to work cohesively, and this summit in itself proves that.
No, definitely. In a research report that we released today, angle of analysis on the BRICS would indicate, in terms of societies, cultures, civilizations even, huge diversity. The interests of China versus the interests of Brazil may look like it's very divergent, but in fact a lot of analysis is beginning to point to the fact that it's actually the diversity of interests represented by each state and each region that the countries come from. It's actually allowing a lot of very productive and constructive interactions to happen between the member states.
Yeah. At the same time, 164 more meetings being held between between members of the BRICS themselves, 60 documents that were implemented as well. Between 2009 plus minus and now, there's been a lot of cooperation.
Yes. No, definitely. If you look at the issue areas that the BRICS look at every summit, from terrorism to ICT to e-commerce to climate change issues that are addressed by the member states. Now it's not just the number of issues. There's a study done every year by the BRICS Research Group from University of Toronto.
Yeah.
And they find that on average BRICS members implement about 70% of all summit decisions, which is a major indication of commitment by the member states to making it a reality. And that's in fact part of the argument that we are developing. We are seeing that the BRICS is really emerging as a brand on the multilateral platform stage, and it's carrying a very new and a very unique voice when it comes to integration, the need for trade. The Chinese president just this afternoon made it very clear, that as a BRICS group, as China in itself, we must just be firm to guard against unilateralism.
Yes.
We must guard against trade protectionism, because that actually runs counter the interests of human development in a way.
Would you then call this summit in itself and the cooperation between the BRICS nations a success thus far?
I would definitely say so. It's not just the summit, because it's an annual program of interactions at a ministerial level, at a business level, at an academic level, at a civil society level, and then it culminates in the annual summit. So I think the success of a BRICS interaction has to be looked at on an annual scale. What did they set out to achieve? What was achieved? And then ultimately, what is the next step? And I think a lot of the conversation today is beginning to say, okay, one, we've accomplished a lot. We have established this brand, this new institution of global governance. But now the next decade. Now we must look at even deeper and more fundamental opportunity to create opportunity for cultural contact, for trade contact, and for a whole host of other opportunities to be open.
Now that they've worked through some of their differences, particularly in the first decade, what do you think is going to be the next sort of step for the BRICS nations in focal points as well as in elements of productivity moving ahead?
I think Minister Davies was quite adamant today about the need for investment-led trade among the BRICS. And I think that's a very important point. So I think from the South African point of view, also with the President's investment drive currently, very strong message at the summit. We need our BRICS partners to look much more carefully at opportunities with South Africa and in the region. And also then South Africa's positioning in the African environment. I think we need to look more at how do we facilitate and engage as BRICS within our regions. China has the Silk Road project, South Africa chairs the North-South Corridor project on the African continent, and I think there's a lot to be said for collaboration between BRICS to make those regional initiatives a reality. Because ultimately the BRICS is creating a new platform, like through the new development bank, sovereign lending, that's totally outside of the framework of your usual World Bank, IMF financial institutions.
What does the world learn from this? What does the world learn from this cooperation between these 5 nations in particular?
I think the message today is that very clearly we are not in the game for trade wars. We're not in the game for isolating our societies and ourselves, our economies and our cultures. And that's the dynamic that we're seeing increasingly in the so-called advanced or developed world. So I think the message that's coming out very clearly here is that 5 developing nations is actually in a counter-cyclical way. They are driving the discourse of integration, driving the discourse of the need for human contact and integration. And ultimately, what I think would emerge out of this is that the BRICS, as members, individual members, but as a collective as well, will increasingly have a strong voice to advocate, for, I think, a more human development-centric model of engagement at the global level.
Almost half the population of the globe fits into just this BRICS cohort as well. Really, really great chatting to you, Dr. Beatrice de Kock. Thank you so much for joining us as well. We are wrapping things up, as you said. This is only day one of the 10th BRICS Summit here at the Sandton Convention Center. Things are steadily moving along. We're still hoping to get word on the cooperations, the discussions, just exactly what is going to be set forward with regards to the partnerships as well between the remaining countries, not just China, of course, who've put a firm footing with South Africa. And it's not just about what South Africa can give, but really what the other nations can give, as we've called it, the BRICS Plus, a lot of the continent as well coming through, the likes of Rwanda, the likes of Namibia as well, setting foot at the summit and inviting them to play a crucial role in how they can advance their economy's needs and the needs as well of the emerging market space. That's a look at the 10th BRICS Summit for this day as well. It is day one. We'll be back again tomorrow to unpack just how much more can be done as we put together the collaborative prosperity in the fourth industrial revolution. It's goodbye from me for now.